What is the History Project? Well, the History Project was a project I started in June or July of 2001 when I moved into a new space in Montreal with a friend. And I really needed to not lose operational continuity or business continuity in my art practice. So what I did is that as soon as I moved in, I set up a studio space. Just put up some boxes and some suitcases, and I put a drape over it. And I started taking apart cardboard boxes and painting on them. Now, some of the first paintings I did that were oil at the time for the History Project was this one. And they're small paintings. They're not these large paintings. And these are called history paintings. This one's gotten a little yellow, so has the other one over time. Because I didn't varnish them by accident. Here's one from the same period. This was 2002. It's The Thinker by Rodin. But this is the history painting here. It's his abstraction is in his mind. The abstraction of what history is. What the History Project was me painting the concept or concepts of history, or trying to. I was studying art history and art historiography and philosophy of art and all that. And I wanted to paint the concepts of history, but I didn't know what the concepts were. The first concepts, we'll call them. And I realized over time that, it's events that occur in records of events, mostly. Those are the first concepts. First witness testimony and, the source material and everything that goes into writing history. Because history is a form of writing. That's why you get historiography. It's a study of the writings of history. So that project went from the summer of 2001 until about 2004, but it's ongoing because I can still make history paintings anytime I want. And the history painting was this idea of these floating, like templates, I call them, and these conduits that connect them. And I used to also have these axes, which I didn't have in this one because it was one of the first ones that I made. I could show you some more, but I didn't feel like taking them out. And really, that's all it really was. It was a study of history as it was happening in Montreal at the time. And I was reacting to events. Obviously I don't have to tell you that a couple of months after I started my project, 9/11 happened, and it was a really effervescent period in Montreal's history, of the whole world pretty much, but Montreal was really, so there was a series of paintings that I started in 2001 in the summer. And there's also a novel called The History Project, and within the novel there's characters, intellectuals, public intellectuals, a painter, a philosopher, a psychiatrist, and a radio DJ and sound designer and musical composer and author of a book. And they all get together and they work on The History Project, which is the project within the novel, which within the project all having the same name, so there's a kind of recursion to it, and or self-similarity, if you will. And the novel that I worked on, I wrote hundreds of pages, but I never succeeded in finishing the novel. So the novel, I say, was an abject failure. And within the novel, the history project that the characters in the fiction are involved in is also an abject failure. The history project that I was involved in, which involved images, sounds, and writing, novels and philosophy and all the research, because what I do is an interdisciplinary art research practice. So the big project, big quotation marks, was a success. The painting series was amazing. The novel was still a success. I wrote hundreds of pages. I'm publishing it now online, and I'm still adding to the concept and to the works. But that abject failure. In the novel, the project is a failure because they don't meet deadlines, and I eventually created the Archives Project, which is where the same team plus 2 other characters get together to try and look at the archives of the History Project and see what went wrong and why it was an abject failure. And they do a post-mortem analysis of the History Project, and they do a pre-mortem analysis of the Archives Project to see where it might go wrong. And anyways, it ends up that the Archives Project novel and the project within the novel is also an abject failure. That seems to be a theme common in my art practice. That was with the History Project. The novel, the History Project, was what I call the novelistic phenomenology. It was a colonial historiographic metafiction, because I inserted myself as author into the novel, where I philosophize a lot about the novel, the sort of phenomenology of the novel as it appears in the mind of the author, as the author writes it, and the creation of fictional characters, what that means. And there was different levels of existence, if you will, like these sort of dimensions, or maybe 11 dimensions. You started with the room, the object, the box, the room, and then the house and the city, and then it was always these sort of like Russian dolls or Chinese dolls, where you had a space which I call the deterministic prison state within another largely deterministic prison state. And it went from the electron, from particles all the way to the universe, which was these different sizes of spaces or boxes, if you will. And so that's about it. That's all I want to say for now. That the History Project was a project from 2001 roughly to 2004, where I tried to study the history and what the first concepts, if you will, are of history. And as history was happening, I was reacting to it and creating works that were relevant, I think, to the times, and were references to prior works of art in the history of art, mostly in European art and art in the Americas.